We are a week away from the election and the markets are getting amped. We'll be discussing everything around that, the latest data this week, earnings reports, Kevin's update on what's happening in Japan, and much more on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, you know the drill. Hit that like button. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Remember, nothing we say is financial advice, so please do your own research. Kev, we are 8 days from Election Day. Thank God. I'm ready for this shit to be over with. Can't stand it. All the ads, all the phone calls and text messages I'm getting. Just want this shit to be over with. But I think we have a lot to talk about as it relates to the financial markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be, it's not just 8 days, in my opinion. I think we have 3 weeks of just craziness that the markets could absolutely exhibit. And that could be, absolute exhilaration. People are excited about things. Maybe the last bit of consumer cash that's out there piles into the money at the top. Or we see that repo drain that we've been tracking. And just so everyone knows, there was another drain. It's getting closer and closer each time. We'll talk about it more on the show in a little bit, but this is definitely going to be the most crucial 3 weeks for the future of the markets, especially in 2025. I think everything is decided come these next 2 weeks. And then, week 3 is kind of when we expect the liquidity to either drain or run out, or for something to pop up in the system to be like, hey, this might be a bit of a problem for us, but, maybe it's transitory, as other things apparently were this entire cycle. So just some thoughts on that. But other than that, yeah, my focus remains on the debt markets. I can't wait for this shit to be over too, man. I don't know what to expect. I think that's the crazy thing. A lot of people are pricing in something. We're talking about it before the show, but me, I'm an open book right now. I'll take it as it comes.
Yeah, it's a pretty huge week as far like these. The rest of this year, honestly, is going to be pretty nuts. This week, we get GDP data. We have the next round of inflation. The PCE comes out on Thursday, as well as personal income, personal spending. JOLTS report tomorrow, so we'll get job openings. On Friday, we get the October employment report, the unemployment rate, hourly wages, all of those things. To add into that, we got earnings from Apple. What's going on?
No, go ahead. We'll talk about this when we get to earnings.
Earnings from Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Visa, MasterCard, all AMD, like every sector, like
tomorrow.
There's a lot of really big reports coming out. And so far in the early part of earnings season, they've been disappointing. There have not been, the amount of companies beating projections has been lower than in previous, the last few years even. So, do we see some more disappointment there? Do we see another hot inflation report? Do we see more? I don't give a shit about the jobs number on Friday. I care about the revisions, because that is where the truth has been. So, will we see more revisions there? What do we see with the PCE number? Is GDP still trending in the right direction? Add into that the fact that the markets are so frothy, and there's, you see a headline every day of if Trump wins the election by year end, Bitcoin's going to be at 150K. Bull fucking shit it is. Okay. That is already priced in. I don't really know the extent to which we can go a lot higher, even if Trump does win. Everyone's getting so excited because they see the poly market numbers of, on poly market, they're showing Trump is 66%, 67% to win the election. I don't care who you vote for, but that is just not accurate. It just isn't. And I don't know, man. You can look at it there's a lot of different ways to look at how those numbers are being, calculated. And is it mainly just crypto people who tend to err more toward Trump? who are betting on these things, and that's why the number is the way it is? Or do they have an ulterior motive of like, hey, we're going to get, because there are people out there who want to see the U.S. burn, who want to see chaos. Are they trying to sow some more dissension, as if that even needs to be like, as if there could be any more division right now? So it's a really weird spot. And let's say Harris does win. Are the markets going to eat shit at that point? I mean, with how excited they are about a Trump presidency, I would think so. So, like me personally, I took some more profit on some stocks today. I'm still holding my crypto, and I'm just sitting here, and we're seeing a little pump in the crypto market as we speak. Bitcoin back 69.4K. Got ETH back above 25. That piece of shit Ethereum back over 2,500. ETH is going to be at 2,500 for the rest of my fucking life, and I'm going to kill myself for not having put more into like Sol or something that had a better outcome. But anyways, where are you kind of looking in the markets right now? I know you're talking about reverse repo, the debt markets, stuff in Asia. I've gone on my rant. I'll let you go on yours.
Yeah, let's just talk about something let's talk about Japan first. Japan had a major election yesterday, and pretty much the parties flipped in terms of majority in their parliament, right? And why is that important? Well, the last time that this happened was in 2009. You can kind of imagine kind of reasons why that could have happened back then. Obviously, there was a major financial crisis that hit the entire world. Obviously, people are going to vote differently. We haven't seen a major financial crisis hit, but you can kind of tell that people, for the most part, and I think this is kind of why you're starting to see some of these poly market odds also lean that way, or even some, a lot of support. Looking at MSG last night, how many people in New York supported Trump? That people are kind of upset with the way things have been. So I'm just going to share this real quick. Japan's long ruling party loses majority in stunning election defeat. Liberal Democratic Party, which has been in power for almost since 1955, failed to secure an absolute majority in the lower house elections. Again, this doesn't change anything when it comes to prime minister or anything like that, but it is important to see that a lot of the things that do get passed when it comes to Japan's political system are probably going to have a different outlook moving forward. This is really important too, because the U.S. alliance, I say alliance, but the U.S. relations tend to be with the other party that have been in control. And it's really interesting to see how that's going to impact, obviously, the financial side of this. We know that there's a huge carry trade that has unwound, but they're adding into it once again. But now that you have kind of these elections out of the way, everything's kind of showing one way. Do their markets and all those institutions that are hurting within Japan say, you know what, let's step back. We got as far as we could with this, and let's just say let the markets be free for once. No more interventions. That's the other thing too. Are they going to allow as many interventions as they have when they obviously are going to probably see someone different than Ueda as the BOJ president, right? There's going to be a lot of changes that are coming in the next year or so. So you might see a very different looking BOJ because of this election that we've seen, right? I think the way that they deal with finance is going to be very important. And like we said, Japan and the US are very close together in their economies. We're also probably going to see a lot of debt being sold off if there's a lot of people that are fearful that this change within this is going to impact their own finances, right? Because again, the people that are voting versus the people who have money in the system, very different political beliefs, not for the reasons that most people believe in, right? Some might be social. I think a lot of the people that have money in the system are thinking more in terms of inflationary as opposed to deflationary pressures, which allow them to make more money, also to allow this carry trade not to unwind as fast. Why that's important, though, is because we have someone that's really tied into this carry trade, NVIDIA. And I wasn't going to talk about NVIDIA today, but then I realized who's reporting their earnings tomorrow. It's not NVIDIA, but it's 1/4 of their customers reporting earnings, and that's Super Microcomputer. Why is it important that Super Microcomputer is reporting its earnings tomorrow, as we can see right here? Well, it's important because they didn't file their 10K. They still have failed to file their 10K report, and you're going to get earnings before then. That is absolutely insane. So that's honestly, when we look at some of the penalties, that's grounds to be taken out of the NASDAQ, right? It's very possible for something like that to happen. Will it happen before a crisis? Who knows? They're very slow to move. But it just goes to show you that there's not a lot of transparency when it comes to some of these chip stocks. And is this going to weigh on Nvidia if their earnings come out and they're just absolutely crap? Like, I can't tell you the last time that this has happened. I'm not aware of a company as big as Supermicrocomputer and how intertwined it is with Nvidia and Nvidia's earnings. To see something like that happen where they fail to file something that they have to file, and then you report earnings, and it's like, well, can we even trust what they say on the earnings if we don't have the data from that they were supposed to file roughly over a month and a half ago? So this is going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, given with what's happening in Japan as well, because we know that a lot of the liquidity that is flowing into these are flowing from Japan, borrowing the yen, throwing into the US equity markets, and hoping to inflate some of this value. SMCI doesn't seem like it's doing as well as it once was. Obviously, it was doing really well back in 2024, March of 2024. But if we look at the height from where it was to where it is now, and this obviously this stock's been split, it's down 61%, guys, in a very short period of time. March to where we currently are in October. We're talking about what, about 6 months, 6, 7 months. I mean, come on. That's a fast move to the downside, 60 something percent. Is that what we're looking forward to after the election, after earnings, and into 2025 for Nvidia? It's possible, right? It really comes down to what we're going to be seeing with liquidity, which you alluded to that we're going to talk about as well. You can just jump into that right now if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for
Uh,
it.
we're in a place where there's just not enough money to guarantee that the markets are going to be continued to be held up. Today we got a bit of a bounce on the reverse repo. Obviously, we're seeing the markets be bought back and then sell off. We could also just be seeing the banks not necessarily need to be putting as much in liquidity for right now. We might see that be just kind of reserving this until we get to a point where there's a major drain, because the markets are going to rally like crazy. I do think that there is a chance that we could see a major rally, say Friday or even Monday next week or later this week at all, just because the election is coming and we know that Tuesday is probably going to be a very contentious day, whether it's going to be absolutely dead in the markets or there's just going to be a lot of people positioning for what comes after it. Also, OPEX going into like November 14th or something like that, I believe. So seeing this here, we bounced right off of this low. We actually put in a new low. We went all the way down to $201 billion. That was another major drain that we got the other day. It was what, $68 billion drain. It was down 25%. Today it's up 10%, and then on Friday it was up 11%. Granted, we're talking about a little bit of money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of how much debt there is out there and how much the markets are being jacked up with a lot of this, tells me that we're seeing very little movement in the market, very little fluctuation that justifies why this hasn't moved too much dramatically to the upside. Tells me that we're probably going to continue to see this drain. I would expect you get below, say to that 200 level again. It's probably going to be a quick trip to $100 billion. When there's $100 billion in the system in terms of liquidity, we're looking very much similar to what the financial system was looking at back in February of 2020. Now, there is a little bit more liquidity out there, but we are seeing this drain. This is a guaranteed drain in terms of weeks, and that's the Bank Term Funding Program. We were talking about how there's going to be about a $10 billion drain last week. We didn't get that big, but we still got a pretty sizable amount, which was $7.11 billion, so about 10.65% down on the week. We get another reading Thursday after markets close. That's likely to be, in my opinion, somewhere in the ballpark of, anywhere from 5 to 30 to even as much as $40 billion that could be drained. If we're doing the math on this being completely equal to what we're seeing on this side, obviously it hasn't been 100%. It's fairly even, but sometimes you can get a bigger drain or a smaller drain depending on who's paying it back and who's pulling liquidity out of the system. So with these two things coming down pretty drastically, and then we look over to what's going on here in the treasury market, and there's been lots of, I'm looking at banks right now, wrong one, scoreboard. You look at the treasury market, which has just been absolutely abysmal, right? We're seeing the 10 to 2 year yield curve unable to go higher than what it did back in September when we got the first rate cut. We are at 0.26, currently sitting at 0.14. Is the treasury market now not allowing a soft landing scenario? It kind of isn't right now. A lot of people are selling off U.S. debt that does not help the U.S. at this time when liquidity is being pulled from the system. The banks are having less and less to be able to buy with, and I don't believe that it is coincidence that Asia and China are probably selling off some of this debt right now. There is a scramble for cash, and that's what we're seeing in the system. Again, all these things have to kind of line up. You have to kind of build this narrative to understand it. But we're going into probably the biggest event. I don't care. It's bigger than the Bitcoin ETF. It's bigger than, I don't know, what else can we say? 2020 election, I guess. This is the most crucial thing that the markets have been hanging, resting their hat on, that this is going to change the direction of the market. We've rallied nonstop since the Bank Term Funding Program to the upside, and now we're going to get this election. And once it's out of the way, I mean, all bets are off, really, what could happen. I'm just saying that I'm looking at this. Liquidity is drying out. I don't think the banks are going to be able to continue to pump money into the markets as they have. I don't think nations are going to be able to do that. We're seeing the dollar continue to rise. I think it's a fool's bet to bet against the dollar right here. I keep pressing the wrong thing. There's too many things in my.
Let's go to Bitcoin, because it
Yeah.
is currently pumping at the moment. 69.6 Bitcoin dominance, up at 59.88%. So it is rapidly approaching 60.
Yep, and it's beating right now the trend line.
Yeah, at its highest level in years. I'm scrolling over. When was the last time that Bitcoin dominance was this high? It has been a minute. Looks like
2021.
April 2021, April 1st. So 3.5 years since Bitcoin dominance has been this high. We're seeing Bitcoin is just rocketing at the moment, like approaching. It looked like it wicked up to just under 70K once again. The question, where can we close on the daily? We're out of that channel that we had been in for a long time. Are we moving in the direction of all-time highs ahead of the election? It's I forget who it was, but some well-respected guy out there is like, inflation's coming back, so I'm in gold, Bitcoin, and commodities. And so like Bitcoin is the play, I guess, at the moment. Looking at that chart, I mean, is it time to get rid of those lines you got right there and start over? Is it broken out of that trend line?
It's interesting, right? Because I just pressed the wrong thing. Did not mean to do that. There we go. That's a trend line. We broke out of it here, and then it went right back under, and then it broke out again. But this is kind of the thing I was talking about last week, and I keep going back to the reverse repo and the BTFP. I said that you would get the pop in the market before the election. You won't see it after. And why is that important? Because that's the drain, right? You need to make the market look as fucking awesome as possible right now to make people believe, or anyone who isn't in the market, believe that everything's okay in the economy, right? Because I think people that are in the market kind of can tell that the economy is a shit show. They just know that the game that they're playing is a casino right now, with how much liquidity there was offered from 2021 to where we currently are. Looking at this here, this is kind of what I expect. I expect the pop up there. Now, the question is, does it go to all-time highs? We got some levels of resistance here. We got one at 70,000. We got levels of resistance at 71.95, which actually is a really good resistance there. And then we got 72.8, and then obviously all-time high, 73.8. Could it go to those levels? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I'm not opposed to that, and that could actually break out of this and make it look like, okay, we're going to continue pushing to 100,000. What if it's just doing that just to get everyone suckered in? And it's like, well, we put in all-time highs right before the election. And then once the election's here, it's like, well, who the hell is going to be bidding into this? Everything that we expected already happened, right? Say Trump, you're betting on a Trump presidency, Trump gets in. I don't think the people that are holding a ton of Bitcoin are going to not recognize there is a bit of a liquidity shortage. There's a dollar demand shortage right now, and not do anything about it. But looking at this right here too, I just don't believe that this is going to be a major breakout to that 100,000, even to $80,000 level that we were talking about, right? That a lot of people are kind of excited about if Trump wins. I think what we're seeing now is just kind of juicing these markets before the elections. It's also the same reason why, if we look at the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow, they've been green for a few days, or if they have been red, it's been very minimal. It's nothing too crazy. You're just going to kind of hover in this range right now. But looking at Bitcoin dominance, does this mean that it's a good time to get into alts? No, not at all, right? This is the highest it's been since 2021. If we look at some of the alts right now, yeah, they're green. But what happens when Bitcoin bleeds? Well, 60% dominance across the board, it's probably going to drag it down. I mean, a lot more than if it were Bitcoin were at, say, 52,000 right now and dominance was at 55. So the stronger Bitcoin gets, the worse it gets for the entire alt market. So ETH is probably going to get its ass kicked if Bitcoin were to pull back. It's kind of dragging everything up with it, but the patterns remain the same. We're still in this bull flag, right? Or I should say a bear flag right now. People are excited thinking that this is going to break out to the upside, but I see it more as just a similar pattern that we're seeing across the entire alt market, which is probably a better pattern than what we're seeing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's that megaphone pattern. I don't like those at all. But when you see something like this here, you see continuation patterns and stuff like Cardano. Give me a good coin. Don't give me a shitty one. Link, same thing right there. These bull flags that turn out to be actually bearish and tank from here.
Come rocket looking.
Come rocket. Probably fucking amazing because it's a VC. I don't know. Is there actually Come Rocket? Cummins? I don't know what that is, but I can't believe I'm actually looking up this. I don't even know what the ticker is. If you can find that, send it to me.
I'm good.
Yeah. I haven't heard that coin since 2021.
I'm not going to be Googling that, buddy. Okay. So you just keep on going with your thing.
This part is sponsored by VPN service. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but that's what I'm looking at for the crypto market. I mean, nothing is telling me any different. Bitcoin is the one that everyone's keeping their eyes on. I mean, does anyone really care about XRP right now or for Link or AVAX in the markets? They might have it, but they don't necessarily think it's going to go to all-time highs when it's, Bitcoin's almost near all-time highs, and this shit's what? This is just AVAX itself. AVAX is down 60% from the high. Alts were not bullish. Very few coins were bullish during this time that Bitcoin's been rising all-time highs. Ethereum was bullish for a while, and then it just kind of, I don't know, it's eating shit now. But none of these other fuckers did shit. This was a very boring. I mean, Solana and BNB. It's the only two I could say that did fairly well along with Bitcoin in this entire run. Now, that doesn't give me full confidence. The other thing is, too, let's talk about oil, because I think you and I are very interested in oil. We were once oil barons.
For like a hot minute.
Yeah, we actually would have made a good amount of money if we stayed bullish on oil. I regret that. But yeah, oil right now, because of what happened with Israel and Iran, they didn't attack the oil fields. So now oil demand's coming down. Let's put it this way. With or without Israel and Iran, oil demand was coming down. This is heavily tied with what's going on in manufacturing. It's also heavily tied with what's happening in the labor market. The only problem is we don't have the data to support that, so I have to call it a hunch, right? But in terms of manufacturing, we have seen those numbers, and it's at a global level. Manufacturing has contracted to recessionary, if not depression levels, right? Sub 50s, even closer to like 40 in some cases, 45. This not a good sign. And you get that month after month after month, demand for crude oil that's used in, manufacturing. You're also not seeing as many people travel. I know it's a different scenario when you go to a major city and you're like on a flight, everyone seems to be flying. We don't know how many flights are going out a day. They might just be packing those flights, right? It's really interesting to think about how demand is something way more than what we expect. We're continuing to see oil kind of drive down the price of gas, which is almost ironic because we're here at election time. It's like the perfect timing to see this kind of play out. Question is, do we get something similar to 2020 with oil, which, I've been going back and forth in my mind, either get a 2008 where we get a really good spike to the upside and then we get a major crash, or we get a 2020 where, yeah, the price of oil is coming down, right? Right around the time where we were in January 2020, we're right at that same level. What happens if something happens where demand across the entire global economy just starts to falter? Some type of black swan event, and next thing you know, I don't think we're going to get down to negative 0.04 for oil. I don't know why that chart even has that. That must have been a bad day for oil. But somewhere in that like $30 range for a barrel of oil. I mean, here it's even registering as $10, $6 a barrel. I don't know if that's a glitch or if that actually was the price in 2020. Point is, I do think that there is a good chance that we could see a major cut in oil because of demand. And that could be happening right now. We just don't necessarily know because the narrative is that, Israel didn't attack Iran's oil fields, therefore demand for oil shouldn't be as bad because there isn't going to be a bit of a shortage. There might be a surplus of oil right now, and we just don't know.
All right. We're going to end it on that note. Man, Bitcoin is just so close to 70 right now. It is
It's probably going to go there. I mean, easily, right?
It's knocking. We'll see where it closes on the daily. Dominance, maybe that'll ETH still doing fuck all. God damn it. All right. I'm done venting about Ethereum and how stupid it is. We'll be back on Wednesday, talk through the latest in the market, some economic data, some earnings. It's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting. I'm not gonna say fun. It'll be an interesting, volatile. It'll be a volatile few weeks.
There we go.
So, lock in. Don't fuck around with leverage if you can't handle it. All that stuff. Yada yada yada. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, comment, whatever. We'll be back Wednesday, same time, same place. Appreciate everybody for watching, and we will see you later this week.
Take care, everyone.